putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
Harvey Weinstein's story has brought to light the ugliness, the humiliation, and perhaps most of all, the prevalence of sexual harassment and assault. Many of us, men mostly, were not aware or chose not to be aware of how common this kind of behavior apparently is. So we decided to do something different here in Meet the Press this week. We asked every female member of the United States Senate, all 21, if they had stories that they wanted to share about sexual harassment. 4 senators, all Democrats, said yes, and told us of experiences early in their careers. Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts, Claire McCaskill of Missouri, Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota, and Mazie Hirono of Hawaii. Here now are their stories.
He's chasing me around the desk, trying to get his hands on me.
Pretty much put his finger in my face, and he said, men will always beat their wives, and you can't stop them.
And he said, well, did you bring your knee pads?
We need to put a stop to this.
Yes, I have a Me Too story, too. I was a baby law professor and so excited to have my first real teaching job. And there was a senior faculty member who, would tell dirty jokes and make comments about my appearance. And one day he asked me if I would stop by his office, which I didn't think much about, and I did. And he slammed the door and lunged for me. It was like a bad cartoon. He's chasing me around the desk, trying to get his hands on me. And I kept saying, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. I have little children at home. Please don't do this. And trying to talk calmly. And at the same time, what was flickering through my brain is, if he gets hold of me, I'm going to punch him right in the face. After several rounds, I jumped for the door and got out. And I went back to my office and I just sat and shook and thought, what had I done to bring this on? And I told my best friend about it. Never said a word to anyone else. But for a long time, I wore a lot of brown.
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. That was Elizabeth Warren talking about her story, her terrible story, where she was at Harvard faking herself as being an Indian, and a guy chased her around. Maybe he was a cowboy. Maybe he was a cowboy. I used to be a cowboy, and you could be my cowgirl. Oh, nope, Indian. I gotta get her. Oh, man, I'm listening to this story going, what a lie. What a blatant lie. Elizabeth Warren wants us to believe that she was, chased around and people were, oh my goodness. Yeah. Harrowing experience. Monumental deflection from the behavior of leftists. Repeat, leftist men is what the media and the leftists now want to cover up. So now everyone wants to get into their Me Too story. And you can bet, folks, in typical Hollywood fashion, these stories get better and better with each telling. I'd love to hear Elizabeth Warren tell this story 2 years from now. Oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it. He was faster than lightning. And then he grabbed me. And next thing I knew, he had to grip. It was like getting gripped by a cougar. But some good looking lady from the suburbs. No, not that kind of cougar. Oh, I get it. Squaw Warren doesn't realize what she's done, but in her tale of woe, she claims to have been chased around a desk by a dude who suffered from polio, a professor who suffered from polio. What was he doing? Chasing her around in them little... I mean, and here's what's really funny about this story, too. Elizabeth Warren is telling you about yet another industry. I've already covered one with Clooney saying, oh, my wife, she's into human rights activism, and the guys who are helping to free these women from sex slavery, they're lechers. And here's Elizabeth Warren going, in academia, there's a bunch of lecherous men, and the minute I closed the door, Dr. So-and-so came after me. He became Dr. Funkenstein. That was that's a reference to a black dude's George Clinton's song, We Love You, Dr. Funkenstein. He's a funk musician. He plays that type of music. Just in case you guys didn't get it. The audience got it. They listen to funk. Academia, full of lecherous leftist men. And trust me, the co-eds can prove it. I tell you all the time, you send your daughters to college thinking, oh, it's all, fun and games. And then some professor goes, hey, you'd have a really good career if you just kind of went along to get along. Look at the places where they can overtly tell you what they want about you sexually. They can say, you're not effable, you're ugly, you're too fat, hey, you know what? You do this for me, I'll get you the role. Anywhere they exercise control, these leftist men, but women are just pieces of meat. But Warren's lying too. Baby law professor, my first real teaching job. As I faked my way into that job being an Indian, professor says, hey, why don't you stop by the office? Blah, blah, blah. And then he chased me around. Yep. She didn't realize that the story was already out there. She told it before. And I like how she ended that. And I'll get back to this guy having polio, but she ended with, I wore a lot of brown. What kind of racist comment is that? What, is brown not a sexy color, Elizabeth? I'd love to hear Sarah Palin say something like, after that incident where I was sexually, harassed, I wore a lot of brown. She's a racist. Look at her talking about brown. What's wrong with brown? And Elizabeth Warren would be wearing a brown vagina on her head and saying, look at what Sarah Palin just said. And then they'd have a big march against her and, of course, against Donald Trump and say, Donald Trump doesn't like the brown. But no, she can say it. I wore a lot of brown. What's that mean? Is that code for something? Maybe you guys know. KJRadio.1. Contact me. 844-551-8255. What's it mean, women, to say I wore a lot of brown? I've seen women wear brown. I like it. I wear brown every day. That's right. My birthday suit. They think the public is dumb. The Boston Herald noticed a different story, the different version of Elizabeth Warren, and they pointed out these inconsistencies. Yeah. The Boston Globe, they said, reported that Warren had recounted the same incident in a, quote, more lighthearted manner at a memorial service after the professor's death in 1997. So this dude dies that traumatized Elizabeth Warren, that made her think of herself differently. She went to her office and she had to think about what just happened. What did I do to deserve that? They said during the service after his death in 1997, Warren spoke fondly of law professor Eugene Smith and told the gathered mourners she was laughing as Smith chased her around his desk. She was laughing. Don't know why he was chasing her. Maybe she said something mean to him, in a tongue-in-cheek way, and he goes, "I'll get you," as he was crunking along on his polo. You know how he put those braces on the leg, crunch, crunch, looking like Frankenstein's kid. He was so fast. I was traumatized. The author of the memoir, John Mixon, told the paper, I may have been wrong saying she was laughing, added that he was writing about the service 15 years after the fact. But it was lighthearted. He said she was definitely, in a jovial, the way she told it, she was jovial. And, of course, failed to mention that the good professor had polio, because that would have put a different spin on it. Yeah, he's got polio and he's chasing me around. I said, he didn't have any legs. He didn't have any legs, but he moved fast. So we're to believe that a man with polio chased her around her desk at what? Glacial speed? And she said, here's what she said in defending what she said. It was 20 years later, and he didn't have power over me. That's what I meant. Why didn't Pocahontas just hit him with a tomahawk right between the legs? Let me tell you why, folks. Because it didn't happen. Elizabeth Warren It's like all these leftists, they lie about everything. They lie about their resumes. They lie about their backgrounds. They lie. They'll do anything to get ahead. Elizabeth Warren is the Brian Williams of the Senate. She was the Brian Williams of Harvard. She's the Brian Williams of the Senate. They have to lie because nobody's going to believe their nonsense. If they tell you the truth, they won't get elected. They won't be respected. That's why they lie.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.